Hello. In this session, we are going to understand some basic information about how Adobe Form works and what are the prerequisites and what are uh, the reports that we are supposed to execute before we start developing the form objects within the SAP system. So in this session, I would like to give you an overview of what are the utilities or what are the test reports or what are the test programs that we can execute within the system once your ADS server is up. And so to do that, again, SAP by default has provided some test reports by which we can just try to validate the ADS server configuration. So that means when I say about ADS server configuration, basically when we talk about this, the architecture basically talks about the ADS server is deployed or installed on your ABAP stack, whereas you are trying to work or develop your form objects on your SAP ABAP application server. So whenever we try to develop and generate and activate these form objects from ABAP application server, so there is a sort of communication that is going to happen between your ABAP application server and Java stack. So in precise, ABAP stack and Java stack would be communicating with each other in order to generate and activate the Adobe Form objects, whatever that we are going to develop within the SAP system. So the first thing is that once your basis team confirms that your ADS server is up and it is installed, so the first thing is to check the reports, execute some set of reports, a couple of reports to validate your ADS server configuration, the connectivity between your ABAP stack and Java stack, so whether the communication is happening properly or not. So to do that, just execute SE38 transaction, and the first report that you're supposed to check is your fp_test_00. So this report helps you to validate and see a kind of get a print preview of your Adobe Form. So basically all you have to just open the SE38 ABAP editor and mention the report name as fp_test_00 and execute it. So by default you just leave as it is. If in case, just make sure that if the connection server name or the connection whatever that has been maintained in the SAP RFC destinations, or where we just try to define the destinations of the systems. So if in case the name is other than ADS, so make sure that you just try to get the server name, or else you can just try to get the F4 help. So by default, when you just click on the possible values, by default it will just try to pull the name of your ADS server or ADS connection RFC destination. So just choose that respective name and just leave the remaining fields as it is, and upon that you just have to execute and just give the print preview output device as LP01. So basically this LP01 is a kind of a local server which will help you to, or local printer which will help you to get the print preview. So once you click on the print preview, so you should be able to see the see the Adobe Form details, something like this, which you are currently able to see. So basically the report just says that we want to generate 2 pages of Adobe Form. So you can see it has generated 2 pages of Adobe Form. So the language and the country, yeah, as it's all up to you. I mean, whether you want to change it or not, but I would usually say that we don't have to do anything with the key values. Maybe if in case we are trying to work with some other customer whose language preferences might be different, so maybe you can just check. In that case, you can just try to change the language and country. Okay, so that is what the first thing is. So once you are able to successfully view the preview of your Adobe Form, so that means your ADS server is configured properly. So that means the artifacts or the attributes, whatever, or the parameters, whatever that are really needed in order to define or maintain a sort of communication between your ABAP stack and Java stack has been maintained properly. If in case you are trying to see some sort of exceptions of like SOAP exception, SOAP exception, so in that case, so there can be a possibility that the user, the background user or the system user, which is actually responsible for connecting to your ADS server from your ABAP application server, has been not maintained properly. So in that case, you can just check with your basis team, so to get more help on mitigating the issue or resolving the issue. So that is what the first report that we are supposed to check. So if this particular report gives you a proper information, like gives you the print preview of your Adobe Forms, and you don't have to execute the next report which I'm about to show you. If in case it is not able to display, so the first thing is to check the destination service. So this destination service is basically like you're trying to validate whether any data is actually transferred from your ABAP stack to Java stack, or ABAP application server to your Java application server. So basically this report just helps you to identify whether any data is getting transmitted from your ABAP stack to Java stack. So all you have to just choose again the name as fp_check_destination_service and execute it. So first time just try to execute as it is, don't try to change any values. So with destination service we'll enable it for the next time in the second execution. So you can see that if you are able to see a kind of information that some bytes are passed, so that means your communication is happening between the two systems or the two servers. And when you just try to enable with destination service and the connection, again you have to provide the appropriate ADS server name. So once you choose the with destination service and execute the report, so again it just tries to give you information. So either of the cases it has to give you a kind of information without any exceptions. So if in case you are able to see any sort of exceptions, again it is a good place to consult, or a good person to consult is your basis consultant, to check with the configuration of your ADS server and the connection that is maintained between your ABAP application server and ADS server. So this is the first two utility programs that you are supposed to check in order to validate your ADS configuration. So upon you have done with this, so the next thing, obviously you can go ahead with your development process. Just a small correction, participants. I was actually initially just trying to mention that your ADS server is configured on top of your ABAP stack. Just to recorrect, extremely sorry that your ADS server is basically configured on your ABAP stack, Java stack. So basically you try to develop all your form objects on your ABAP application server, and once you try to activate and generate the form, so there will be a kind of communication that is going to happen between your ABAP application server and Java application server. So that means your ADS is configured on top of on Java application, on Java stack side, whereas you try to develop your form objects from your ABAP application or ABAP stack. So that is what I just want to rephrase the statement, whatever that I just tried to initially mention before as soon as I just tried to start the session. Anyways, so the once upon the confirmation that once upon the confirmation that your ADS server and the communication between your ABAP stack and Java stack is happening properly, and the two application servers are communicating properly, and the data is getting transmitted from your ABAP application server to Java application server. So the next thing is you can just go ahead and develop your form objects. So the first transaction, which is very useful, and one transaction which will be helping us to develop all our Adobe Form objects, irrespective of whether it is a print based or it's an interactive or offline, or in case of you are trying to convert your smart forms into your Adobe Forms, and again you want to define or enhance or extend the converted form. So the place where we are doing all the development activities related to your Adobe Forms are done from transaction SFP. So all you have to just execute the transaction SFP, and you will be navigated to your uh, transaction SFP. So if you just try to look at the first initial screen of SFP, this is the place where you can just try to build your form objects and at the same time interface objects. So it's more or less like the way in which we just try to develop our smart forms, but I don't want to bring up the smart form aspects currently in this session. So we just try to understand that we have a form object and we also have an interface object that is associated with your form object, right? So basically the form object is a place where you just try to build and design the look and feel, what kind of what kind of data has to be placed in which kind of fields, and how the binding has to happen, and the layout, the look and feel of your form. And also you just try to define all the associations between and what kind of data that has to be pulled from the interface. You just try to define everything within the form object, whereas the interface is something like you just try to define all your data objects or the artifacts, whatever that you are going to use within the form in order to display or in order to get the information from the end user. Either of the cases, you just try to define all the information or attributes, whatever that you are looking to place in the form or get from the end user. You just try to define everything within the interface. Interface is a kind of it just tries to place in between your form object and your application program. So in case there is also a chance and a possibility that whatever the form objects that you just try to build, Adobe Forms, whatever that you just try to build, you can just even call these Adobe Forms from your ABAP programs or application programs. In fact, we also say them as driver programs. So you can call these Adobe Forms from your ABAP application programs or reports in order to generate the data, or in case if you are just trying to develop a print based form, so in that case you can just try to push the information into interface, and the interface will take care of sending the data from your interface to your Adobe form object, so that based on the bindings, whatever that you just try to define, these fields or the data, whatever that has been passed from interface to form object, those data objects will be placed in the appropriate positions or the places or the points wherever in whatever the place or the associations that you have defined in the form object. But yeah, anyways, we are going to look at on all those things, but I just wanted to give you a high level information, a brief introduction about what is this form and what is this interface and how this interface has a significance on the form. And in fact, you don't have to build a separate interface for every form object. Sometimes there is a chance of reusing the existing interfaces with a newly created Adobe Forms. Okay, so that is what all about on the initial screen of SFP, but I just gave you a very high level understanding of what we can develop over here and how we can navigate to SFP, or how we can build form objects and interface objects within the SAP or R3 system. But however, this ADS, or the Adobe Lifecycle Designer, whatever that we are going to use in fact to build your form objects, which is very tightly integrated with your ABAP workbench, so that you can also navigate to your, or you can also start your developing of form objects even from your ABAP workbench. So navigate to ABAP workbench, transaction is SC80. So once you try to navigate to your ABAP workbench, just choose appropriate package name or the position or the place where you want to create, and just right click on the name of the package and click on create, and you will be able to see the form objects over here. So you can also create, or you can also navigate to your SFP or developing the form objects from your ABAP workbench. So the first thing is that which I've already mentioned, like what are the utilities or what kind of tools that we require in order to build Adobe Forms within the SAP system earlier also. So as I said, the Lifecycle Designer is tightly integrated with your ABAP workbench. So we have Adobe Lifecycle Designer, SAP Adobe Lifecycle Designer, so which we have to get it installed on your workstation or the laptop, the place wherever you are trying to work or create the development objects related to your form objects and Adobe Forms. So the Lifecycle Designer plays a very key role. So obviously it should be installed on your workstation. So let's try to navigate back to your SFP transaction, and let's try to give a more insight on what actually we can just try to do in the form objects or in the SFP transaction. So before that, I would like to give you a speak of how does a lifecycle designer looks like, and how does what are the different attributes and parameters that we are supposed to that we can maintain within the form object. So for that, I'm just trying to open a test form which has been provided within the SAP system. So fp_test_01 is a sample form that will be available within the SAP system. So just go ahead and click on display, and you will be able to see the form builder over here. So as you can see that you can just maintain different properties over here. So let us start with the properties. What kind of properties that we can maintain within the form object? So basically, if you just look at it, we have different kinds of layout: a standard layout, ZCI layout, unknown layout type, and XACF layout type. The idea over here is that I would like to take one by one each layout at a time whenever the context really needed. So currently we are not trying to discuss anything more or less like about the print forms. So we are trying to initially understand what are the initial steps of creating Adobe Form, a print based Adobe Form. So I would like to keep the other layouts. I would like to discuss about the other layouts at other when the context really appears, like when we are trying to talk about online forms or interactive forms, then how does it look like, what kind of layout we have to use. So as whenever there is a context, so obviously I would like to revisit these properties tab, and I would like to explain about the layout. So don't worry about it. Okay, and as I was trying to also say that we would be trying to associate the interface object, form interface object, with the form object. So here is a place where you have to actually maintain the interfaces. Like as I said, interface obviously contains the different data objects and definitions, and it also has different initialization techniques. So there is a difference. There are a lot of attributes and parameters that we can define in the interface also, but to precisely say that how we can associate or how do we map, so here is a place where you can just try to see what kind of interface that the form object is using. Usually what happens is, when for the first time when you're trying to create a form object, in the initial screen itself, the system prompts you or it will try to ask you for what kind of interface that you are looking at, and what kind of what is the name of the form object that you are trying to build. So everything on the initial screen itself you should be able to provide it. So maybe the development methodology or the process, if I have to talk, maybe first you have to get decided or get a clear in picture about, or a clarity on what kind of information that we are supposed to use within the interface. So once you are sure about what kind of data objects and what is the definition on signature of the interface, so then you can just go ahead and start building your form object. So basically you have to start building first your interface and then your form. Otherwise maybe there could be a kind of confusion, ambiguity between what kind of data objects that we can use within the system. Okay, so the next thing which I would like to talk about is your inbound handler. Basically this inbound handler is something like which is a very advanced topic, if I have to say. Basically this inbound handler is used whenever you're just trying to send the form from some external domain as an attachment, and you want to pull the information. So it's a kind of a parser class. So I would like to keep the discussion for further sessions. I would like to talk about this inbound handler in coming sessions, obviously. So that is what actually you can find it out more information in the properties tab. So you can find out some sort of metadata information about who created and when it was changed, under which package or the development class it is saved, and what is the original language of your Adobe Form. So on a whole, in the properties tab, you define the layout. The key important things that you have to understand in the properties tab is what kind of layout type that you're trying to use, and if in case you have any inbound handler, so obviously you have to associate the inbound handler also, because when you're trying to create the form interface, form object for the first time, there is no place to provide this inbound handler. So obviously, as I said, only it expects a kind of interface, what kind of interface that you want to use it. So that is what you can find it out in the properties tab. And when we talk about the context is nothing but what kind of data and what is the information that you are looking at or to place in the form. So all this information that you are going to do within the context under the context tab. So as you can see over here in the import tab, so this import is actually happening. So this section or the folder, the subfolder of your interface import is actually coming from your form interface. So the section which you are seeing at this point on the left hand side, this is your interface. So based on the importing the definition what that you have defined in the import section of your form interface, all the parameters and attributes on the data objects are pulled and placed in your import folder, under import folder. At the same time, you also have ability and to use the system fields, which you can find it out over here. Like by default, these system fields are included whenever for the first time you create a form interface. So the interface, so the importing, so the values, the data objects, whatever that you want to place, all you have to just pull, you can just drag and drop on your context of the form. Anyways, we are going to look at it, but I'm just trying to give you a very brief information about how does a form looks like, a form builder looks like. In the coming sessions, we are going to understand in depth how we can go ahead and create the structures, the tables, and how we can include them within the context of the form, how we can pull the information from the interface, or how we can drag and drop. Everything will be discussed in with each and every point. Okay, so that is what actually you define under the context. So whatever the data objects that you want to push and place in the form, you just try to define this binding or association between your interface and context. So with the fields, whatever that you want to place, the data, the attributes, whatever that you want to place in the form, all you have to just drag and drop on the context of the form object. This is your interface and this is your form object. So once you drag and drop on the context of your form, so that particular attribute or the data object is available within your form object. So the next thing is, which I was talking about, how does your lifecycle designer looks like within the the SAP system. So you have two options of choosing the layout. The first thing is that you can just click on the layout tab. So once you just click on the layout tab, it just tries to open your Adobe Lifecycle Designer along with different sections and areas that are really helpful to build Adobe Form design. So here is a place where you can just try to design your form. So as you can see over here, since this is a test form, and I've just tried to open this in a display mode. So as you can see that you will be able to see this Adobe Lifecycle Designer, something like this, which looks very clumsy, and it's not really free to move your mouse over different places or the sections. So in case if you are just trying to look at open in a separate window, then all you can just click on the full screen layout, which is available, a button which is available on the application toolbar. So just click on the layout, and you should be able to see a full screen layout editor, and which will be also again just having the same set of sections whatever that we just saw earlier. So here is a place where you can just try to see all the sections, which is more spacious, and there is no sort of clumsiness in the look and feel of your Adobe Lifecycle Designer. So on a whole, this is how your lifecycle designer looks like, and I would like to talk about the different sections now. So as you can see that in this section you will be able to see the hierarchy of your form elements. So as soon as you just try to place some elements within the within the form object, so you will be able to see how many pages you have, and what are the different subforms it consists of, and it just tries to show you a kind of the DOM, document object model, and what kind of elements and what kind of different controls that you have used within the form, and what is the hierarchy, and who is the parent, and what is the child. Everything will be can be seen under your hierarchy tab. And whereas in the data view tab you will be able to see the the bindings between your interface. So once you place any attribute within the form, so the icon, whatever that you are trying to see, with a red and a green arrows facing towards facing right and left, so that means binding the particular data object is placed within the form. So this means that so once in case if you're just not sure like what are the different data objects that are placed in the form, all you can just try to do is that navigate to your data view and just try to look at the icons against each attribute or the data object, so that you will be able to identify that what is the appropriate or relevant data object and where it is placed. So if you just try to choose it, so as you can see that the focus is getting changed, the focus of your editor gets changed. As you can see that when I just try to choose it, it just tries to place where exactly the attribute is located. So in case you just try to choose the subform, so the focus has changed entirely to the whole all the 4 to 5 elements. If I just try to look at the master pages, so master page is a place where you just try to define your master layout. So anyways, we are going to come back, but in the hierarchy and data view you basically will be able to see the whole DOM structure or the entire structure of your Adobe form in the hierarchy tab, and in the data view you can be able to identify and choose the appropriate data object and where exactly it is located within the form. You will be able to identify it. Okay, so that is one section, and the section which you are seeing in middle of the screen is actually the place where you start placing all your UI controls. So once you pull the information from your SAP application, the standard tables or the reports, so you try to send that information to the interface, and interface will again send it to your form object. So form object will basically try to pull the interface data, and it will just try to place it. So presenting the information also plays a very key role. So what kind of information? So in case if you're just trying to place or present some kind of currency and quantity information, then obviously it has to be presented in different way. And if in case you are just trying to put some sort of header, so what kind of elements that you have to use, so everything you just try to define under your design view. So this is the place where you actually start placing your UI controls. Okay, and you just try to make use of different controls that are available within the library, which you can see on the right hand side. There is a section which talks about the library. So you have different libraries over here, what kind of controls that you can place. You have a checkbox, you have an action button called email submit, you have an image. So yeah, anyways, we are going to show it, but this is a library where you will be able to see the different UI controls. And in case if you just try to look at the preview of the designed form, all you have to just click on the preview PDF tab, which is next to your master page. Okay, so in case you can just see that this is what actually the preview is like. So highlight the existing field. So whenever you just try to choose, so in the case of trying to preview the PDF which is in the design phase, so there sometimes you get a notification when you just try to write some information in the existing fields of the the preview form. So it says like you cannot save, you cannot completely save the information. Why this is because we also have a scenario called offline based offline Adobe forms. So in that case you can just save the form on your desktop, and later at some point of time you can come back and fill the form, and you can just send it to your SAP application server, so that the SAP application server will take care of saving the information whatever that has been provided within the form. So but however, you don't have to worry about this. We are going to look at a very good example on how we can send a form to PDF. We'll just try to look at this example also. So on a whole, design view is a place where you actually try to design your page one subforms, whereas the master pages basically talks about what kind of pages you want to use. The pages, how many pages you want. You can have different pages. So how do we look at those different pages and how we build different pages, we will look at in the coming sessions. Right, so this is what your library looks like, and as I said, it has all your controls. What kind of controls? In case if you're looking at some barcode information, in case you want to build your own custom UI control and place it, you can just place them in the custom controls, and in case you want to look at the standard available things, then you can use it. In case if you are trying to build some online forms, then you can make use of this WebDyn Pro ActiveX controls, which will be communicating with your WebDyn Pro application, and at the same time which will try to pull the information from your WebDyn Pro application back to your Adobe Form. And WebDyn Pro native controls, you can also make use of ISR controls. Basically this ISR controls, more or less, it is used in different application components. For example, to give you an example, in HCM process and forms, we make use of these ISR controls. So maybe you can just try to find more information. If you are a HCM process and forms consultant, obviously you will be making use more or less like these ISR controls. Other than that, yeah, so in the library you will be able to identify all the UI controls, and these palettes, once you just try to place the information, so obviously you can just try to choose like what kind of object you are looking at. And if in case you are just trying to look at, if I'm just trying to choose some other text in some other object or UI element within the form, so you will be able to define the bindings association of your interface object. So what kind of field you are looking at. So object basically talks about the UI control. So in case if you are trying to look at text field and you want to change it to some other thing, you will be able to do it basically under the field tab. And whether since because I'm trying to use a text field, so I have properties associated with the text field. If in case I'm just trying to change the type of the field, so the associated field types may appear. So it's not really necessary that the same properties appear for all types of fields or all types of objects. Maybe it can differ from type to type. And the next thing, in the value, obviously you have some default values. You can just try to give whether it is required or is it recommended. So in case if you are just trying to look at as mandatory values or required, so you can just try to look at, if in case you are trying to calculate something, derive something dynamically, you can just try to choose that also over here. Okay, and in case if you're just trying to look at some default value, if there is no value available within the interface, so in that case what kind of value you want to place or present for the end user, so in that case you can just mention a default value over here. And validation pattern of, obviously there can be a situation or a scenario where the information whatever that you are trying to present or get from the end user, maybe he is not trying to input in a proper format. So in that case, if the format or the pattern doesn't match with what actually that is expected to fill in that specific field or the object, so in that case you can just validate on the pattern, and you can just place some error messages where you can just try to place the error messages over here. Okay, and finally when I talk about the object binding, obviously you can just give the name of your object. As you can see, the text module 1 and over here which is under the data view, and the name which is actually in the binding are both one and the same. Okay, so the thing is that you are supposed to maintain the name ID. It is something very much similar to the ID of your field. and what kind of binding that, or what kind of data object that it has to use from the interface that anyways you are just trying to pull from your interface object. So this fp_test_01 is the interface, and this interface has this these four fields which you can bind it. So whatever the value that will be populated within the text module 1 or text module 2, it will be placed in that appropriate or the respective text module 1 field. And again, you can also define a pattern how you can just try to place it. So we will look at this. So you can define the pattern. So once the information comes, how does the so maybe the internal representation of the data would be different from the way in which you want to present to the end user. So in that case, how it should be presented. So this actually you can just define over here. Okay, and these are the border and everything. These are something like a cosmetic changes or cosmetic the look and feel, like whether you want to enable borders for the object or the text field. So in case you can want to edit it together on a whole, so that means all the four sides of the text field will be edited together. In case if you are trying to edit individually, so in that case you can just individually, like in case if you just trying to look at the both the sides of the rectangle or both the sides of the object has to be filled with some border. So in that case you can just enable this side and this side of the objects, so the borders line will be visible in both the borders. And accessibility, basically we talk about most of the times nowadays most of the ERP applications encourage to develop and build applications which are accessible by any kind of or any sort of people. So basically we use this accessibility option. So if in case we have some users who are physically challenged of like problems with like hearing or seeing, so in that case we can make use of this accessibility options so that the tooltips whatever that you are going to maintain, so that tooltip will be helpful to them. So basically accessibility is more or less like it is recommended that whenever you are trying to build any Adobe form, so make sure that the accessibility option is available for the forms. Okay, so this is the object. Again, I'm trying to say you that the object, border and accessibility, these are not actually, these are with respect to the field type, text field. If in case you are just trying to change it to some other type of the field, so obviously the properties and the attributes of the whole object might change. So it is not really necessary that if you are just trying to make use of some text view, in that case you may not be able to see the validation pattern, or so obviously what I'm just trying to say is that the properties of each object type may change based upon the UI element or the library element, whatever that we are going to use. Okay, so that is what you have with the object, border and accessibility. And obviously the report and bindings. So in case if you are just trying to look at the bindings, so you can just try to identify that based on the global data binding. So interface can contain global data and at the same time normal data binding. So in case if you want to see the understand what are the different elements that are used with binding, so you can just get the list of fields over here. Just a second. Okay, maybe because we are on the display mode, and in case whenever you have some sort of warnings, you can just look at whenever you are trying to generate the PDF and you have some warnings. So obviously you can just make use of this warnings tab to check if in case there are any warnings or errors associated with the generated PDF. Okay, by reference. Okay, as you can see over here that data binding by reference, as you can see that because we are trying to refer the interface data objects within the form, so obviously as you can see that what are the different elements that are associated with the bindings. So you can just get a glimpse of all the elements all the fields whatever that are associated with the bindings, and what are the elements which are not binded with the bindings, so you can just look at them. Okay, so that is what we have in the Adobe Lifecycle Designer. Apart from that, we also have different palettes. Like for example, in case if you want to change the font, so all you can just click on the font, so this palette will be available over here. So as you can see that the palettes can be placed or it can be closed, and at some point of time you can just enable it. Yeah, so just for example, if I'm just looking at the font palette, and I'm also looking at something called data view, and if I'm just looking at hierarchy, then you can see that the control or the focus has been changed to hierarchy tab. If in case I'm just looking at data view, then the focus has changed to data view. And in case if I'm just looking at library, so library currently is closed. Again, if I have to choose library, then you can just click on library, so your library palette appears over here. And in case if I'm just looking at the border, currently as you can see that the focus is on object tab, but if I just click on border, so the focus of the the tab is focused on the border. So you have different drawing aids, so you can see that what kind of drawing aids you can make use of it. So if in case you can just make use of drawing aids, you can close it. So how to close it is all you have to just click on drawing aids again, so it will disappear. So in case if you are just looking at info, so you can just click on info and reports. So the reports, the section which I was talking about, where we can just try to get a glimpse of what are the different elements that are defined. So that is what the report is. So the report palette can be closed. And how to basically, it just tries to give you information about what kind of, how to build a form, how to edit fields, how to add fields. So you can just find out more information within the different palettes. Okay, and if in case you are just trying to reset all the palettes, so reset palette locations, so everything is reset. So if in case sometimes what happens is you are just trying to place your palette over here, and you're just trying to place your palette over here, and finally you want to again reset all the palettes locations. So as you can see that it has been reset. Okay, and one more important thing is that there is also a possibility to define the script for a form. So where you can find the script, so here is a place where you can just find the script. Okay, so here is a place where you will be able to write and define the script. Either you can make use of JavaScript or FormCalc script, which we'll be discussing in the further sessions. So the script editor is basically available on the top of your form design. So all you have to just click on this arrow, highlighted blue color arrow. So you can just place it over here, and yeah, so the toolbars, what kind of toolbars that you looking at. So if in case you want to hide the toolbars, you can just hide the toolbars. And in case if you are looking at script editor, as I said, you have the script editor over here, and you can just click on over it. And if in case you are not sure where you are able to find it out, so just click on reset palettes. So again, this particular mark which will show you whether you can expand and decrease, collapse the script editor. So hierarchy view, data view. So these are the different palettes. So what are palettes? So these are the different palettes that we have over here. So if in case you are not interested to know close the how to, so you can just close it. And if in case you want to close library, you can just close it. If in case you are just looking at close object, you can just close it. But however, finally once you go back and reset the palette locations, all the things are placed again back to normal. So the tools, you can check the spellings of your form, you can edit the dictionary, you can create some shortcuts, you can import the PDFs, right? You can also customize. You have different options over here once you click on the options. So basically it just tries to show you the different options over here. Okay, so these are some set of the features that we can explore from within the form builder when we just try to open it in a separate window. However, there are some more options like tools, layout, table. So I'll just try to take you through these features from within the form builder layout, so that we can just get a confirmation that the layout remains same even from the layout when we just try to open the layout even from the form builder. So I'm just trying to open the layout from within the form builder. So just hold on a second. So once you are back to your form builder layout, so again, as you can see, the same set of menu options are also available. So here I would like to take you through the tools options. So in the tools options, we have check spelling. So basically you can just make use of this check spelling options. Usually you will find this feature within the Microsoft Word document, where you can have you can just validate the spellings, whatever that you just try to include within the text of the document or within the form. And you have also option of adding your own words within the dictionary. Like, all you have to just choose the specific language and then just choose the appropriate language type, and just choose the word and add it to your list or the dictionary. Next, coming to that, we have a template manager, which I would like to talk more about on this in the coming sessions. Anyways, but you have option of choosing some standard templates by default, so that you don't have to worry about developing the form from scratch. So if in case you have something which which have some same set of standard layouts, where the design falls in the same layout, so in that case you can just choose this form type, and maybe you can just make it. As you can see over here, that when I just try to choose the contact information, the form layout appears something like this. The look and feel of the form appears in the preview section of the window, template manager. So if in case you have a credit debit memo, so in that case what you can just do is that you can just choose the specific template, and maybe you can just start developing instead of developing it from scratch. Or in case if the layout falls in some the pattern of your layout falls in the same pattern, so in that case you can just try to choose any one of them. Okay, and form blue, again it just differs from the way it appears, the look and feel. And now you can see the background has been changed, and if it is vanilla, then it's again different kind of background. So you can just choose any one of them, and in others we don't have anything. Whereas in case of WebDin Pro, what do you say, in case if you are trying to build an online WebDin Pro Adobe Form, then in that case you need a WebDin Pro application where you can just integrate or your Adobe Form within the WebDin Pro application, and you can start developing your WebDin Pro application. Maybe you can just try to refer them or come back and choose you can just look at them in the form of a reference, so that you don't have to worry about what are the different kinds of settings or parameters that are required. So maybe these forms can also help us to use them as a reference. So on a whole, this is what you can find within the template manager. And if you just go to the keyboard shortcuts, you will be able to identify what are the different shortcuts that are used to handle the form design, which are you can have your own set of commands. For example, if I have to just look at the accessibility option, then I can just click on shortcut Shift plus F6. And if in case I have something which talks about alignment at the bottom, so I can just make use of Control down arrow along with the down arrow. Okay, so you will be able to identify all your keyboard shortcuts of relevant to Adobe Lifecycle Designer under your tools and keyboard shortcuts. And when you talk about customization about the toolbars, what are the toolbars that you want to make it appear, and what kind of tools that you want to be made available on the toolbar, you can just do that settings under your customization. And options, these are very specific to your Adobe form, the form that you are going to build. So these have some set of properties relevant to your data binding and how the workspace should be appearing, like whether you want to make use of line numbers or what kind of scripting. In case of scripting, what should be the color format, what should be the font. You can just set all these settings over here, and wizards and tips. So on a whole, you can just customize the different options, or you can set different options within your Adobe Form or the Lifecycle Designer. And moving ahead, when we talk about import option, you also have a possibility to import the forms, PDF forms, into your Lifecycle Designer, and from that point of time you can reuse these forms. Okay, so as we have already seen that what are the options. Now I would like to show you what is actually the significance of import. In the import function, or in the import feature, what we can do is that we can import already existing PDF from your desktop, and then you can start modifying the uploaded form object within the Lifecycle Designer. So you also have a facility to download and import and export the form objects onto your desktop. So I'll show you what actually happens when you just try to download a PDF object or a form object onto your desktop or a workstation. So usually what happens is that when you just try to download a PDF or a Adobe form object, so usually this particular form object is stored as a .xml document, as a XML document. So your PDF development or form object development is not really necessary. That when you just try to open the download a form object, so usually what happens is this form object is downloaded as an XML document, and the same XML document can be uploaded in any other system also. So in that way it gives us a feasibility, the Lifecycle Designer gives us a feasibility to download and import the forms into different systems. Usually this can be a situation or a case where when you don't have a proper access to your Lifecycle Designer, or in case you already have some existing PDF layouts or form layouts, and you want to make use of this layout templates within your development. So in that case you can just try to import these PDF documents, and you can start developing or modifying the uploaded form objects. So that is what you have with the import option. And when you talk about the layout, these layout options are basically trying to align the and align the form elements in a proper format, so they are placed across your form design without crossing out the boundaries. So these are more or less like grouping the elements and aligning. So I would say that these are something relying relevant to your alignment of your UI elements or library elements of your PDF or the Adobe form object within the form. So we'll look at this layout options more when we try to develop or start creating the form objects. And table options, basically it just tries to help us to build tables within the form Adobe form objects. We also come back again to understand what are the different features that are available under table. So when we talk about insert is more or less like understanding what are the different library elements that you can use, and what are the current number of sheets. You have different options over here. You can include a page, you can delete a page, you can include one of the UI elements that are available under standard or custom or from the barcodes or any other. So you have this insert option. Basically usually the general practice would be like just choosing the library elements directly from your library section and drag them onto your form. So that would be more easy in order to include or insert any elements or fields, object types within your form. When we talk about rulers, so basically as you can see now, I would request you to look at the changes that are appearing on your form design section. So when I just try to click on rulers, so the rulers are appearing over here. When I click on grids, so basically grid lines are disappeared now currently. Okay, and when I say design view. So basically I'm just trying to navigate to one of the tabs on design view. When I click on master pages, I just try to, the system is trying to focus on master pages, and when I click on XML source, so it is trying to show you the XML source document. So as I said earlier that whenever you just try to download a PDF document, so this kind of XML source is actually it would be a kind of encrypted data, and it would be downloaded onto your desktop. And when you want to look at the preview, so you can just look at the preview window. So view basically helps you to navigate between the different tabs, and at the same time if you want to look at the actual size, you can just look at the actual size, or if you want to make it fit to window, so you have these kind of options under your view menu option. And anyways, in the edit you can just the general options that we have. So again we can just log the text elements, we can log the UI elements that are placed on the form. So I'll just try to show you all these features in the coming sessions when we really delve into the form development. So on a whole, these are the different features that we have from the Adobe Lifecycle Designer. And in case if you are just looking at the reference, then obviously the best place is to navigate to help and click on getting started. And in case if you are looking at the scripting reference, you can just look at the scripting reference. And if in case you want to identify the information about what kind of Lifecycle Designer you're using and what is the version, and about your licensing information, you can just click on about Adobe Lifecycle Designer. When we talk about licensing, there can be some exceptional situations where you have to buy a licensing license again. So these are specifically with respect to the way in which you have your development environment. In case if you are trying to create your own templates and include within the library, then again you need a license. And there are some couple of exception cases where you need explicit licensing. So obviously it's the best place to check about the licensing is your sales of SAP. So in that way you will be able to get information more about your licensing attributes. So on a whole, what we just try to understand in this session is that how does your form cycle for Adobe Form Lifecycle Designer looks like, and what are the different properties that are associated with the Adobe Form object, and what is the context, and how do we associate interface with the form object, and after associating the interface with the form object, how do we make use of these interface data objects within the form object, and how do we include it, and how does a layout look like, and what are the different sections of the Adobe Lifecycle Designer, and how we can open a layout in an external window, and how you can include or how you can navigate within the form builder to layout. Also we just try to understand what are the other possibilities of creating or developing form objects from ABAP Workbench. So on a whole, this session should give you a brief high-level understanding of what are the things that we are going to look at in the coming sessions, and how we are going to build and develop different kinds of layouts along with the different layout types, and what are the different kinds of form types that we have. As I said initially that we have print-based forms, interactive forms, online forms, offline forms. So we are going to look at all these scenarios in the coming sessions. Thank you very much.